Let's start off by telling us about the origins of the shop, how you came here, why you came here, and what you've got going on here.
Okay, so I took up quilting probably about 15 years ago, and I was mortified. My mother wanted me to quilt, but I thought that was something old people did. And when I figured out the whole process and learned the whole process, I was all in. So I told my husband I wanted to open a quilt shop, and he told me I had to go get a part-time job. So I worked at a quilt shop part-time for about 3 years. And then we decided to make the move to Southwest Kansas and open a quilt shop.
So, what brought you to Elkhart?
My husband was born and raised here.
Okay.
I grew up on a farm halfway between Nest City and Hayes. We met at college and raised our own kids, lived in Dallas, Fort Worth for about 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then we moved to small town.
Gotcha. How did you find this place?
Actually, when I first opened, it was June of 2018, and I opened across the street in a different building.
I remember that.
I was over there for about 18 months. As soon as I opened my shop, we remodeled that building.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I was in and settled and it was going really well, I wanted the next step, which was a retreat center. The building wasn't really big enough for a retreat center, not to do it the way that I really wanted to do it. My dad helped me remodel this building, and my dad says he's not remodeling any more buildings on Elkhart.
This is the end.
This is it. Yeah, this is number 2. Done. So this is exactly what I wanted. I had been on enough quilt retreats to know what worked and what didn't.
Right.
I have gone, you can see kind of behind us here,
Yeah.
I have gone with dormitory style sleeping. In Kansas, if you sell 3 private bedrooms or more, you get into hotel taxes, which really increases the price.
Right.
Someone would have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
My bathroom is the same way. I have toilets and showers behind lockable, closable doors, and then a bank of sinks. I didn't want somebody tying up a whole bathroom just to brush their teeth or to put their makeup on. But
So we're going to check out the retreat center first, and Laura's going to tell us all about the facilities as we go through.
So I put in a retreat space for 12. So this is where they sleep. And I go home at 5 o'clock when I have a retreat in here. And so I think most of the time, most ladies put their pajamas on by 5:05. And I don't know if they sleep, they sew, or they shop in the middle of the night. I don't really care. So I have a few dirty beds in here now because I just had a retreat leave. So in Kansas, dormitory style sleeping has saved my customers a lot of money. Private beds, you get into hotel taxation, and it really adds an expense.
I think the last time I was in this building, it was still a grocery store.
Yes. When I was dating my husband, I was in here one time and it was a grocery store. So the legend goes that when this building was built in 1940, it was built as a cooperative grocery store, and the basement was put in as the community bomb shelter.
That's a great bit of history to know right there.
So there's about 13 inches of rebar reinforced concrete between this floor and the basement.
You had a pretty good tornado shelter then too, don't you?
No, and interestingly enough, the city asked me to make sure that the ladies that stay here know where the storm shelter is. So I've marked the basement doors. I have a little private dressing room here behind the armoire. Just curtains. And then the bathroom, I didn't want a door that could slam, so I put a sliding door on because it's a lot quieter.
Put a barn door on.
I put a barn door on it, yes. So in the bathroom here, behind the purple doors are potties. So when somebody comes in and they're in a hurry, I say the purple doors, just go to the purple doors. Those are the potties. Showers and toilets are behind full lockable, closable doors. And then I put in a bank of sinks. This is the bathroom. This is the catch-all room, but I have a pseudo handicap bathroom in here. I don't have the ramp to the shower yet, but I am in the process of getting one. So I've got handicap bars on the toilet, a roll under sink, that kind of thing. And again, a purple door.
Tell us about the retreat.
Well, I have what I call open retreats, and I have 12 beds, and I have classroom table space for 12. So there's 12 slots, and I just usually advertise a Thursday through a Monday. So it's 5 full days and 4 nights. And ladies just bring their own projects to work on. They can work on anything they want. Every once in a while, I will have a retreat where it's a certain project or a certain pattern that we're going to work on. But for the most part, other groups are contacting me and coming with a group. Last fall, I had a quilt guild out of Olathe, and then I had the quilt guild out of Paola. They're willing to drive to unplug from the city and see some sunsets.
I didn't have 5 days in mind. I assumed, a weekend, like 1 or 2 nights.
Last week, I had a retreat that was Monday through Friday. Usually it's over a weekend, a 3, 4, 5 day weekend. My calendar's pretty flexible, and whatever the group is calling about, I try to accommodate what they want. I do not have a full kitchen here because if I put in an oven and have a full kitchen, then I get into catering licensure, and I'm a quilter, not a cook.
Yep.
So
makes sense to me.
Absolutely. I have crock pots, roasters, microwave, refrigerator.
And do some of your groups like bring their own?
They do.
Yeah, bring their own groceries and
Yes, a lot of times they'll eat breakfast in and maybe lunch in, and then they go out in the evening. Or maybe they'll just go have one big lunch and then just graze the rest of the day. I have a TV here, and last Monday I had a retreat going on, and of course it was history and with inauguration, and so the TV was on last Monday for inauguration.
She's passing up.
Is it okay? Yes, I love it.
How about rates? Is that something you want to talk about for retreats?
Sure, absolutely. So I generally charge $30 a bed a night. So let's say they come in on Thursday, they're leaving on Monday, that's 4 nights. So it's $120. I provide all of the linens, towels, and sheets. So nobody has to pack their own bedding or anything.
Yeah.
But I don't provide meals here. I'm a quilter, not a cook.
I get it.
And so if I were to cook, because I have beds for sale, then I get into licensure and catering, and I don't want that. I would rather, these groups that come to town, I would rather push them towards our eateries. I always tell groups, I can set you up with a restaurant and they'd be happy to cater something in for you.
Help support the local economy that way.
And it takes all of us in this town. It really does.
So tell us about what's on the walls here.
Well, the quilts hanging on the walls are either patterns that I have or the fabric that I have for sale. It's just more welcoming, I think, if people can look at a quilt and see the colors. Like, I really like that. Do you have that pattern? Do you still have that fabric?
Is that the biggest part of your business then, is the retreats, or is it just cloth sales? Or
pretty much it's the cloth sales, because the cloth sales happen at a retreat.
The retreat, of course, yeah.
I also have a long arm service, which is a big computer-driven machine that sews the 3 layers together. It puts the wadding or the batting inside the backing fabric and the top fabric. It makes a sandwich, and then it quilts over the top of that to quilt those 3 layers together. Let's go to this cabinet over here.
Yeah.
So this cabinet is full of the quilts that I'm finished with. I can no longer get the pattern, or I'm completely out of the fabric. I'm done with the shop sample. So they're full quilts, quilted, bound, the whole thing. And I just tried to offload them because I just get overwhelmed with quilts. So these are the quilts that are for sale. So a homemade quilt makes an excellent gift.
Tell me about the fabrics you have available and just what products you have available.
Mostly quilting cotton. I really don't carry other fabrics other than that. So it's all 100% quilt shop quality. There are different qualities of cotton fabrics, and I carry quilt shop quality fabric. I have threads, notions, scissors, rotary cutters, new sewing machine needles, patterns,
Right.
and then the long arm service and the
Mhm.
retreat center.
That's what I would do. I couldn't get anything with a straight line.
Right? So yeah, a specialty ruler with a sharp rotary blade. That's I think a sharp rotary blade and a nice new needle in my sewing machine are my two favorites.
So this is what I call my notions wall. I've got new blades for rotary cutters, sharp scissors, things that gadgets. A lot of quilters are gadget girls.
Right.
So specialty rulers.
Yeah. That's what I would need because I can't get anything in a straight line.
Right. So yeah, a specialty ruler with a sharp rotary blade. That's, I think, a sharp rotary blade and a nice new needle in my sewing machine are my two favorite notions.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Bought the building in November of 2019 and immediately started the retail renovation because
Right.
I didn't want to be closed.
Mhm.
And so we got the retail ready. We moved in. And then my husband is the one that did all of the work in the retreat space and in
Right.
this room. And we were working every evening down here. He was hanging sheetrock. And it was the night that our governor called out fabric shops and told us fabric stores had to close immediately. And I thought, what are we doing here? I just sat down on the curb and cried because there was nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And so we kept plugging along. I had a retreat booked for July of 2020.
Mhm.
I was in touch with those people and they were going to do it no matter what. And so we just kept plugging along. But yeah, I opened my retreat center when COVID was going on. And so it really took a couple years for the retreat center to take off.
Why fabric stores?
I think really she was targeting the big box fabric stores because they weren't necessity. You
Right.
know, the big box stores like Home Depot for home repairs, those got to stay open. Grocery stores got to stay open. But the specialty shops had to close. And there's nothing really in Joann's, it's life and death. And there's really nothing in a
Right.
quilt shop that's life and death. However, there is mental health there.
Yeah, there is.
So.
There definitely is.
So these right here, this is a new thing that I've started carrying. They're called half pack quilts. It's 5 half-yard cuts of fabric.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fabric that I have that I curated together. And for each pack that you buy, you get a free pattern.
Okay.
So those have gone over really well because everything's already kitted together for
Right.
you.
So these right here, this is a new thing that I started carrying. They're called half pack quilts. It's 5 half-yard cuts of fabric, and it's fabric that I have.
This is called a jelly roll. It's a 2.5 inch strip of fabric. So if I'm in a room full of quilters, you know, when it comes to my mental health or my mental capacity, it's like, well, I'm 1 2.5 inch strip shy of a full jelly roll. There's 42 fabrics that
Right.
are selvage to selvage at 2.5 wide.
Okay.
Then there's just different patterns that you can make with those.
Right. People that were lucky enough to already be into outdoor things, you know, fishing and hunting and stuff like that, they kind of thrived during that time period.
They
you know?
did.
People that were, you know, didn't have those interests, I think it was really tough for them.
Well, they say, and I saw a statistic once, and I have no idea how they came up on this number, but you know, there were people that had not had their sewing machine out of the closet since they were in 8th grade, and women were getting their sewing machines out
Yeah,
because there was nothing else to
absolutely. People started to get sewing machines out, started to bake,
do. Yes.
started to, you know, do all kinds of things. People had to find things to do at home.
So if I'm in a room full of quilters, you know, when it comes to my mental health or my mental capacity, it's like, well, I'm 1 2.5 inch strip shy of a full jelly roll. There's 42 fabrics that are selvage to selvage at 2.5 wide. And there's just different patterns that you can make with those.
Patterns have gotten really expensive.
Right.
And so these are a company called Villa Rosa. And these are they're called postcard patterns, but they're just $2. And a lot of quilters have really started going to that because it's so much less expensive. Patterns are about anywhere from $12 to $24
Mm-hmm.
retail.
So yeah, tell us about beginning quilters.
Okay, so I shared with you earlier, I have not had opportunities for classes recently because the retreat center has been.
Part of this story that's kind of fun is how much my dad helped me. And a funny story between my dad and I is after remodeling the first building across the street and then moving over here, I would say, well, we're going to do it this way. And he would question me. And by the time we were done, he's like, you know what you're doing? I'm not questioning you. You have a reason. And he said, you can see it in your head, but we can't see it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got exactly what I wanted. Classroom space for 12, a retreat center for 12, and a retail storefront.
Is there a difference between a quilt that's made for everyday use, and a quilt that's maybe more decoration, more of a wall hanger?
Sure. That's called heirloom. And
Right.
like an heirloom quilt is something you would probably not intentionally ever run through the washer and dryer.
Right.
A lot of there's definitely periods in history where quilts were utilitarian. You know, you think about the women in the covered wagons, or maybe they didn't have enough coal for the stove, and so they had those were utilitarian quilts. And a lot of my customers do quilt for utilitarian purposes. You're going to find a quilt on the bed.
Yeah. How do people find you online? How do they book a retreat? How do they do all that kind of stuff?
Well, they can call 620-697-4095. I have a Facebook page, Sew Loved Quilt Shop, and that's SEW.
Right.
And my email is Laura, LAURA, at sewlovedquiltshop.com.
There we go.
Well, that's good. I think that's great.
All right. So tell us about your hours of operation.
Okay, I'm here Tuesday through Friday from 10 to 5, and on Saturdays from 10 to 1. But my phone number is on the door.
Right.
And if somebody's driving through, passing through, maybe they've come to town with their husband or something and they need something, always call the number on the door.
Right.
If I'm not in town, I'll find an employee that's in town.
The last thing we always like to ask people is, why should people come here?
People should come here because I offer great quality, quilt shop quality patterns, fabric, notions, a long arm service, a retreat center. And one of my philosophies is that mistakes are really just design opportunities and inaccuracies are just artistic interpretations. So there's really no mistake in quilting.
Right.
So
Makes sense. Yeah.